Welcome back to the Brits Don't Jump podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Doyle, and this week we're starting something exciting. We've got Women's Basketball Weekly starting. This is going to be the venture that I've started up. I'm going to try and do a weekly women's podcast, get guests, good insight, good knowledge of the game, and bring a bit of effort to the game that we've been lacking, I think, and promote the Women's League a bit more. We'll mainly be touching on Super League basketball women over the weeks, but of course, I've got interest in NCAA and places like that, so we're going to keep that up as well, but mainly it'll be Super League basketball women. And to start off, we've got a fantastic guest, someone who's got a deep knowledge in the game, and especially in the Caledonia Gladiators women. Grant Young, how you doing, pal?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me on, and excited to hear about your kind of new direction with this as well, so that's pretty cool.
That's it. I mean, like we said, we'll not touch too much on it and insult too many people, but I think effort levels from certain people, it's just, I want to bring a bit extra to the game and just give it the light that it deserves, considering these women work so hard to get to where they have been, and then they somehow don't get that effort reciprocated.
It's massive. Like, the league is improving. Like, you just have to see that in the depth of quality coming through. You've got good British players playing here. You just have to see the amount of SLBW women named in the British team coming up for the next window as well. So yeah, it's deserving a bigger voice, and it's probably something that we don't do enough of, except around the finals on the SLB show, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. Like you've touched on it there, and the SLB show is brilliant, and obviously it is mainly focused on the men's game, but yourself, you have got an interest in the women's game. You do the comms for the Gladiators. So how did you stumble across, like, how did you become a fan of the women's game, and how did you stumble across becoming a commentator for the Gladiators?
So I suppose my interest in basketball goes back to when I was a kid. Started going to kind of the Scottish Rocks back in the day, and just kind of built up from then. Obviously, when the Timonies came in, I was already doing the podcast. For back then, it was known as the Rocks On podcast. That's really thrown it back to COVID times. And then just as the teams kind of combined, became more interested in it, did the podcast, got people like Steve, obviously when the women became involved, had Chantel and other people from the organisation on the podcast, and it just kind of went from there. Got asked to do some commentary work. This is my third season I think of doing it for the women's game, so, and it's been great, and it's just I got asked to do it, and it's kind of just grown arms and legs and been brilliant. Obviously doing the men's games as well on DAZN, but the women's games, you can always have a bit of fun about them as well, because it maybe has less controlling elements to it. You're kind of given a little bit more free rein to maybe have a bit more banter as well on it, so it's good fun. And the women's game just continues to grow. Like, I see it with the Gladiators as well over the last few seasons. Like, things like for them up at Place, we're opening up both sides of the stands. Like, it just means more people, more eyeballs, and it creates a better atmosphere when it's not just like one-sided, like, or the side behind the bench. When they go both sides, it's just such a great game day atmosphere.
Yeah, and I think, well, actually, we've had Rona Lightbody on the podcast before, and she was talking before the season. She mentioned a similar thing. She said, with the games being on YouTube and not DAZN, you've not constantly got someone in your ear trying to control what's happening, when it's happening. So she said the same. And obviously the Gladiators, you do great work, I think, especially with the women's game.
Thank you.
You know, interviewing players as well and kind of bringing a bit more professionalism to it. The Gladiators are, of course, one of the better teams in the league between them and the Sheffield Hatters. 10-3 on the season and a Betty Cardona appearance in the finals. What is success for the Gladiators this season, and how have you found that so far?
It's an interesting one. I think this team has been geared up to obviously compete against multiple fronts, and it's, when you compare it to the Hatters, both of them are by far the strongest two teams, and Gladiators and Hatters kind of split the first two games across obviously trophy kind of group stages. Gladiators got that win over them, won that comeback victory against them, and then it's dropped the next two in the final. So I think success for them is wanting to make sure they're in every final. I think for them, success is finishing top two. They would like that all to be an extra step forward. Like, the team is, I think adding Tess Amundsen in halfway through the season was kind of a show of strength to be like, no, we're all in this season. We want to go off and win it. I think they'll be disappointed if how the last few weeks have gone. Like, losing to Hatters the way they did second half, losing the way to Hatters again second half, losing again. And then actually losing to Oakland's the way they did second half as well. So there's, like, unfortunately, maybe a wee kind of trend happening in the last couple of weeks for them that has maybe let a few games go, which they won't be happy about.
Yeah, I was going to mention that the second half of games, especially, I mean, we'll mention the Hatters more, but obviously they've got a very deep bench, so the matchups they bring there's always going to be quality there. In Auckland's, that they did start the season and they struggled, but obviously Danny McCrea has kind of kept playing. They've brought them on a lot. They've had a little resurgence. What is it about the second halves for the Caledonia Gladiators at the minute? What kind of changes where the quality drops slightly and teams seem to overcome them?
I think what's also possibly happened is this has obviously been a tough couple of weeks schedule-wise. They played Essex as well. They got a good win. They got, I suppose, a comeback victory over Essex, a game that they could have gone the other way. Like, they've had a really tough schedule up to what I suppose, even including London midweek here before like their international break. Like, the schedule's been really tough, and I know from talking to Chantel, it's been like, let's just get to that. Hopefully, win all the games where we can, and that happens. I think for the Gladiators, what has shown since the trophy final, and then since Mathilde de Monge's gone down, is how important she is in big moments. Like her injury, I think it's concussion again, and that seems to be a common injury for her, unfortunately. And it just then means roles change. Annie Warren handles the ball a lot more, which then means she's less obviously off ball. There's maybe then less space for Tierra Hodges to try and do her thing, and it's amazing how that kind of snowball effect has impacted them. I think they play their best when the ball moves, and that's maybe what Mathilde brings to the game so well. As a proper point guard, she orchestrates the offense, but see, if when she needs to, she can take over.
Yeah.
And that's maybe where Annie maybe isn't able to do that as much. We see her, she's one of the top scorers in the league, but maybe she needs to be just that two guard rather than the primary option.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I was going to ask that as well. With people going down and people having to play different roles, it seems like for the majority, when the core is there and everyone's at full strength, it seems like they've got an abundance of scorers. Once you've lost Matilda, like you said, and it seems like the scorers are still there, but they're not as active. So do you think that's mainly because she's fallen out injured? Like, we've seen her from Tierra Hodges, especially in the Hatters matchups. She hasn't been scoring as heavily. Is that because Matilda wasn't there to help her out? Or do you think there's other parts of play there? Say, for instance, Megan Mullins being on the court and having harder matchups?
I mean, I think you see Megan Mullins definitely one of the reasons. She's probably top 3 players in the league, if not top 1, possibly top 1. I think also I quite often talk about people being like version 2.0 of them have done that in the past, but Nina Crisper this season for the Hatters is immense. Like, the difference she's brought to them from year 1 to year 2 is incredible. She's so tough. She's so good. She's such a great defender. She's great from the mid-range. She's great under the basket. And I think the issue is the Gladiators don't have someone like that. Like, she's a better post player than Tierra, or at the moment it feels like that's the case. And then she's a harder matchup for Tierra to guard. But then when you go bigger and you go to, say, a Bryn Masovic, she's that little bit quicker than Bryn. And it's just that difference. And then if you add in Antoinette Lewis, like, I just think when you look at the Hatters Gladiators matchup, it's fascinating. Like, 2 good teams, but who has the edge? And I think sometimes it just comes down to, I think Gladiators have been maybe found out a little bit in how they want to play. So I suppose this is now where coaches go, okay, how can we adapt? Like, we're kind of coming into that kind of crunch point of the season, and if Gladiators were out Mathilde, you go, okay, how can we adapt to make it work? Like, how can you get, I suppose from a Gladiators point of view, Robin Lewis maybe taking more shots? It seems like sometimes players or defenders kind of sag off her a little bit because she's not such a big offensive threat, which kind of closes maybe the space for some others. But it's really fascinating. I always think the Oakland's game, I think, was tough for the Gladiators. Like, it wasn't one they probably thought would have gone that way, but Oakland's just moved the ball so well. And I think that's where the Gladiators play their best basketball, is when they've had Mathilde at the point, able to kind of shift the momentum, get the ball moving, and find open shooters. Even like Maura Fitzpatrick started the season incredible from behind the arc. Everyone knows what Hannah Robb can do. She's an incredible player as well.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, again, I wasn't going to touch it later, but you mentioned Antoinette Lewis for the Hatters, and obviously you've got Megan Mullins, you've got Georgia Gale, who are the players who are going to get the most credit. What do you think about her development this season? I watched her especially in like the trophy final and the game after, and I think especially under the basket and defensively, she seems to have such an incredible leap from last year. What do you think of her development?
You saying for Antoinette
Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, she's someone that, because she was at Newcastle, was it last season or season before last? Season before. And she was obviously in that kind of first season with Tierra Hodges, and they did a pretty good job. But it's how players fit into a system really nicely. Like, I'm just clicking to see exactly what her stats is, but I think, like, she got 13.5 points a season, or 13.5 points per game. but you wouldn't put her down as being that third scorer in that team. Like, you really wouldn't. She just, like, you would go, okay, Mullings, yep, Gale, yep, Crisper probably, Shauna Harrison even before her. But she just does her work so well, like gets 4 or 5 points a quarter, and all of a sudden she's got the tally she does. Like, but that's just what a quality inside presence done in the women's game. Get 2-3 shots up a quarter and just be a menace. And she's a great rebounder as well. Like, she just adds to the mix that Sheffield aren't just a deep team in terms of how good they go down the roster. They're also got great length and size.
Yeah.
Like, they are like a perfect, like, Vanessa Ellis has done a tremendous job at bringing back the players from last season, but then just adding other pieces around it is really impressive.
Yeah, and do you know what it is with Lewis as well? Like, I'll be watching games and I'll be watching the Hatters, and obviously you'll be like, oh, there's Mullins, she's doing 10, or Gail, like when she got a 40-point game, you see her putting them up, and obviously they're the ones that get the mention and they get the MVPs.
Yep.
And then you look down the stat sheet and you're like, oh my God, Lewis has ended up with like 16 points or something, like 16 points, 10 rebounds, and you're like, the amount of credit she gets probably is unlike, she needs more credit for what the work she does, because it's obviously, it's not easy to be the first option, but you kind of know your role then. I think sometimes finding your role as maybe the third or fourth option is kind of somewhat difficult for some players.
And that's where games, like the bigger games, the finals are won. It's like everyone knows what the first two players are going to do, like the main player, the next player. It's always who can be that third or fourth player. And I think she was huge in the Betty Cadona final as well. Like, she did such a great job at just being a menace when she was on the court. And that's all you can ask from for that kind of third, fourth, maybe even fifth player in the roster in terms of scoring load or rebounding load to do. Like, Megan Mullings is going to go after rebounds, but can you do the job when she's sitting down? Can you, when you're playing beside her, can you create her space as well? And it's all those kind of the small wins that maybe don't even go on a stat sheet. I think she does really well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in my opinion, it probably is going to be the Hatters and Gladiators come playoff time in the playoff final. I know they obviously knocked off the
you always think, I always think I'd hope so, but then you have to, like, Oakland's are coming into such a great bit of form. Like, their last 5 games are doing incredibly well. It seems like, I remember I was did the pre-game chat with the coach when the Gladiators played them with Coach Ryan? Lee Ryan?
Yeah, Lee Ryan's at Oakland's, yeah.
Yeah. Lee Ryan, and he was saying that there's probably 1 or 2 games they let slip early on in the season, but he felt like they were beginning to get their momentum back, and they really are.
Yeah.
Like, they're playing some nice basketball that you almost have to think, okay, in SPW it's a single game playoff, so if you can finish and get the home leg against them, you hope that goes their way. But if they were to somehow have a home game in a semi-final or push the Gladiators or Hatters and get in that top 2, you wouldn't want to play a semi-final against Oakland's in Oakland's, that's for sure.
I think that's the one team later on we'll mention Dark Horse. That's one team you're kind of watching now, because obviously at the start of the year it felt like they were figuring things out. You lose a talent like Sam Ashby and several others, you're going to feel it. And I think one thing that they've done well is keeping Danny McCrea in there, who can kind of lead the team, who can pass the ball, who can shoot the ball. I think that's going to be really important for them for the future. If they do manage to get, I mean, the chances are Caledonia are going to get the home game advantage. Whether they make advantage of it is something totally different. If in hypothetical terms, if the Hatters and Gladiators do reach the final, how do Gladiators kind of bridge that gap? Because we know already maybe the mental advantages in the Hatters' court, that they've played the big final, they've won it. If they go to Manchester and now win another one, you feel they already had the experience, and then to build it even more, how do the Gladiators kind of bridge that gap?
Yeah, and I suppose when you look at the championship as well, do you see Sheffield dropping a game for the Gladiators to have a chance to draw level with them? You really don't, do you?
Not
you
now.
don't. You don't see it. Like, I've not looked at who their next 5 are against, but when you look at the top 2, what can the Gladiators do? You hope they're fully fit, and you hope that they work away. I think sometimes the Gladiators in recent games, they've brought Masovic off the bench. I'd like to see her back in the starting lineup and that kind of thing, and maybe it allows Tierra to be at the 4, which then makes the matchup that little bit different. I think Bryn did start the final, actually, when I think back to it, but quite often Masovic comes off the bench to maybe have a different kind of starting lineup. I suppose it depends where Demonge is, but Gladiators, I say, better when the ball's moving. I think sometimes they just get too stagnant. They get stuck. They're looking for someone to create, and then they're chucking some really poor shots late clock. I think they play better when the ball's moving, and I think you could probably get at Sheffield. You see Mullings picks up quite a lot of calls from the referees in terms of talking back to them. Georgia Gale does the same. I think both coaches, Shan Handy got ejected or double teched at the last game against the Hatters, and that was after Vanessa Ellis got a technical against her in the first quarter, for example. So I suppose it's one of these ones. Can you put the Hatters under so much pressure that they get a little bit ragged?
Yeah.
But there's Georgia Gale. Look at what happened last year in the playoff final. Like, they were they were quite far down behind Oakland in the final, and then Georgia Gale, I think, was on 3 fouls and then 4 fouls early in the third, and you go, how are they winning this? And then Georgia Gale just takes over. Like,
I think that's the problem with them as well. Like, they've got so many scorers, and then see, Mullins is kind of consistent. Georgia Gale doesn't need to be at her best, but when she is, it's kind of one of them, how do you stop them?
And I think what makes Georgia Gale such a force is because she's tall.
Yeah.
Like, for a point guard or a leading ball handler in her team, she's a pretty tall player. Which then, when you think across the rest of the league, a lot of the point guards, like, she has a size advantage over. So that's one thing the Gladiators need to try and use. What will help them get that is speed. They've got players that can get up and down the court. Their full court press has been a thing that's really stood out. Can they maintain that and just keep going? I think as well what's happened in recent weeks, when the head has dropped, they've stopped communicating. If the Gladiators can keep their kind of their vibes up, I think they've got every chance to do it. But Sheffield are just got a great mojo about them right now, and what they do and how they play and across the court is so impressive.
Yeah, and the worst thing is, I think I was on the Blind Pig podcast earlier, like, in the week, and I said, because, Sheffield had a slow start the season, but they didn't. It was just in terms of them. They obviously weren't winning every game, but their record was still fantastic. If you look at the next 5 games, because I just thought I'd check while you said it, Nottingham Wildcats, Cardiff Met Archers, Manchester Basketball, Leicester Riders. Then they're away at Oakland's Wolves, so that could be definitely an interesting one in terms of matchups. We could see how far Oakland's have came by then, but I'm kind of with you. It's like, where do they now drop a game?
And that's the thing. So that's their last 5 games, and this is the thing. Like, you go, the Women's League only having 10 teams. They only play each other home and away. It's 18-game season. It's basically a sprint. And Sheffield have been leading it. Maybe not leading it from the front all the time, but it feels like they're peaking right in time, and so do maybe Oakland's as well. And you go, where's the difficult games? And you go, Manchester. It's kind of similar to the men's team. 1 minute they're playing incredible basketball and it's going to be a close game, and then the next, like Manchester maybe struggling, and you go, that last game of the season against Oakland's could be huge because it's away, because it's like Oakland's might need it to cement 3rd place or maybe even higher. They might need it to, like, join, like that. That's a huge game, and then you go, okay, well, they might have to face each other again in the playoffs in a matter of weeks after that. Well, 3 weeks after that or 4 weeks after that, it's playoff finals. So 25th of April is probably their first huge task. And when you look at that and you go, well, they could have the championship and the cup and the trophy all sewn up by that point.
Yeah, and you've got to think the confidence that we flow. Like, they don't need confidence anyway. There's just pure talent in that squad. But to have that kind of confidence, a bit scary to think of, isn't it? Like, it is a question, how do you stop them? And you've got to look throughout the league, and it feels like the best team to stop them is Caledonia. But because they've already had a couple of defeats, it's one of them where they're going to really have to turn up on the day if they get to the playoff final.
But it's not even just that. Like, you look at the Gladiators games, every game up till halftime's been, the first half's been amazing, end-to-end scoring, and then Sheffield just have that gear that they've been able to go up, and the Gladiators kind of stalled. I think what's not helped them, but made Sheffield better is the way they've brought in reinforcements throughout the season. Like, Emma Gandini's dropped away, presumed injured. They've brought in Jess Edsworth Yates in Greece. I think she started the season, and she's been incredible.
Yeah,
like,
really
she
good.
just like Gandini was a brilliant player, and he's for Yates. Nothing drops off from her. Like, she goes the full time. Chantel Charles has come in as well. That's kind of, so when you think of the players that they've lost in Gandini and Fernandez Pardo, you could generally argue that they've upgraded when they've replaced players, and that's such an impressive thing for them to do.
Yeah, you mentioned Edsworth Yates as well, and what do you think her role is on this Hatter squad? Because I watch her, and some of the bounce passes she's making, like when she's handling the ball, she's tremendous. When you've got Gale, you've got Mullins, even Nina Crisper on the floor, what is her role and how can she supplement them as players?
She's a bit of a blue-collar worker. I saw her last season. There was a game when she was playing for Leicester, and she absolutely destroyed the Gladiators. As a shooter, as a scorer, like from 3, from whatever, she could do it all. defensively. She's in your face. She doesn't give you any kind of room and space to go. She's the player that I suppose as a coach you want her in your team, or a player like that in your team, because they'll play the exact way you want them to play. You want her to handle the ball, she'll get you what? I think she averages about 4 assists a game. She gets you 2 steals. You just know what you're getting from her. I think she's even averaging 5 rebounds a game as well. And you go, we don't need any more from her. Like, she's just an absolute brilliant team player that actually causes so many problems both ends of the floor. And it just supplements what Georgia Gale does.
Yeah.
Because if you try and help out in Georgia Gale, oh, well, East for Yates is open, she'll take the 3.
Yeah, that's it. It kind of poses more problems, because then who are you sending your defenders to? Because at that point, there's not enough players on the court to match everyone.
No, and that's where I suppose Sheffield take advantage of. If you give Mullings a bit of space, she goes, thanks very much, and crashes to the basket, or he'll hand it off to Nina Crisper, or vice versa. Like, they've just got loads of kind of two-way kind of players that you can hand off the ball to one that will give it back for the other. Like, the space they create for each other off the ball. Like, East for Yates, she's, I think, very much underrated in this league.
Yeah, like you said for Leicester last year, just the way she could like turn the screw and then suddenly demolish a team, it was actually scary at points.
Like, she was Leicester's probably most consistent player last season.
Yeah.
At times. Like, that's, and if you think she took an opportunity to go abroad, has come back in, and you wouldn't know that she's not been there all season. If that makes sense. Like, she's just seamlessly fitted in so well. And that's another reason why teams struggle against Hatters, because if she doesn't start, she's coming off the bench to give, say, a Georgia Gale some rest.
Yeah.
And it's not like nothing's eased off. Like, it's proper.
No, I know that's it. And, I mean, I've touched a lot on the Hatters, so we'll move on slightly and give some other teams some spotlight, because there is another team I'm really interested in, and I've actually loved watching them this year, and that's the Essex Rebels. You've obviously got Natalie Chow, who was scoring for fun, and it seems like she's just made the perfect partnership with Paige Meyer. What's your opinion on them? Obviously, I don't know how deep they would go in the postseason, but can they cause any problems to the bigger teams?
I think the few times I've seen them, like, they coulda, shoulda probably beaten the Gladiators. Gladiators had to come really fight back against them and slowed them down second half. And I think Ashley Cookson said this, like, he's delighted with how he's recruited this season. Like, he's got really lucky, but what maybe counts against them sometimes is after player 5, like after their starting 5, do they have the depth to compete in the playoffs against Sheffield or the Gladiators or even Oakland's? Like, do they go deep enough? And that's always my question mark of them. Maria Blazowski, I think she's just an absolute baller.
Yeah,
like,
she's awesome.
You need her to go get 15 points, she'll get you that ball, but at the same time, she'll get you 10 rebounds. She'll also get you 5 assists. Like, she's that kind of player that suits how the SLEW works. They're a tremendous team, and I think Essex do a lot of really good things on and off the court, like great setup. Yeah, really impressed by kind of what they do. Like, I think they're just a brilliant all-rounded team.
Yeah, 100%. I think, so is that you kind of being very polite and saying, fantastic, but they're not going to do much damage in the postseason?
No, I think they could. That's the thing, though, because they've got such a great 5, and if you get them on a right day when their 5 are ticking, like, they've beaten the Gladiators. I think they've beaten Hatters as well this season. I can't remember, but they're a team that on their home court is so difficult to play, and they're beginning to travel better as well. And you go, who's ever reliable for him is someone like a Claire Paxton. She'll get you some points, she'll get you some stops, but if she's your 5th, 6th player, like, who's after that? They brought in Taylor Willis not that long ago, and who'd been there for a few years. It'd be interesting to see how her role, like how that depth. That's always my big question mark for Essex. Have they got the depth to compete long term? Because in the last few seasons, they've had quality teams, and then 1 or 2 injuries. Like 2 seasons ago, I think they were arguably the best team in the league, or top 2, top 3 teams in the league, and it was just injuries. Injuries absolutely floored them. Same last season. It seems to, like, what was the big called? I can't remember what their big was, or their big centre was last season, but she was incredible, but got hurt. They're always that team, if they get an injury or 2, it really impacts them. But this season they've been lucky, or not lucky, they've just been consistent. And yeah, they're definitely one of the top teams in the league that could cause a problem, but I think I'd rather face them than Oakland.
Yeah, 100%. I'd like to pretend that my team, Newcastle Eagles, are going to be up there near the end of the season. And to be fair, they started the season really well, and I think Andrea Daly's been a fantastic find. But I think literally first game of the season, we kind of found out that without Andrea Daly on the floor, we're not going to rebound very well, and Hatters schooled us very quickly in the cup. What are your opinions on the Newcastle Eagles this year? Have you got to watch much of them? Have you seen much of them or not?
Yeah, I think I've commented on them at least once, maybe twice. Injuries have caused havoc.
Yeah.
Which, when we say like they got a brilliant start to the season, but I do think the schedule was quite kind to them early on in terms of who they faced. That's not their fault, and that's not anything. But maybe their first month of the season, their first 3-4 games, these Eagles are 4-0, but they maybe got also a little bit lucky that they played Essex before Essex got their import or their Americans in as well, which does help. But that builds momentum. What absolutely takes away momentum is all the injuries they got, like. Because they had to postpone a game because of injuries and illness, didn't
they did. No, it had to get rearranged because they literally had no one. I think a lot of it was illness, and then there was a few injuries. And I mean, at the start of was it the Hatters? I want to say it was when I was at the Hatters game, first game of the season. Chloe Gaynor had to come off the bench, and that was at the start of the season. Yeah. And by the way, she was probably the best player on the court. It was scary the difference she made. But yeah, I think that is the issue, though, isn't it? Depth, and when you're like a team that doesn't have the biggest budget in the league, it feels like that's what's going to affect you the most.
And it was always going to be interesting to see who replaced Tierra. Yeah. Let's be honest. Like, she was instrumental for the 2 seasons she was a Geordie as such. And it almost felt like this season, more with Chloe becoming more full-time coach, what's going to happen? And they got a tremendous start. And then, yeah, Daly's been quality, but again, just injuries. Like, I'm just trying to get their next schedule up. But like, if they could hold on and be a top 4, top 5 team, then that's probably all right. Jada Dapa's been, like, if you can keep her, get her fit, like, we saw how good she was season before last.
Mongomo's been a great sign as well. She's had a really good year.
Mongomo's an interesting one because we saw her at Gladiators when she was when the Gladiators played in Europe the season before last, right. When she was in I'm going to go check because I don't want to say the team wrong. When she was in Switzerland, like, Gladiators played against her and she was quality, and she just brings that experience. She's not, I think when I can't remember what game I watched recently, but I saw her become just kind of like stand by the 3-point arc, and I was like, no, her game's that battle inside, and I thought she would do that more. What I think is going to be interesting for you guys down in Newcastle is what you can do with Otto Soulsby.
Yeah.
Because if Harriet's going to be peak Harriet, then you're getting a double-double every week, and maybe shores you guys up in the post. Like, if obviously she got her job, I think she's probably still working at Durham Uni, but if she always doesn't play away games, doesn't maybe travel as well, but if you can get her playing at her best, fit, healthy, and maybe with people around her really well, then Newcastle again will be coming into the playoffs in a better place.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect point about that as well. If you can get her fit and healthy and in a good team, she's going to do damage. But that's kind of the problem with Newcastle at the minute. Like, fit and healthy isn't their thing, and putting the players around her, she's going to have to play a role she's maybe not as comfortable with, and that's going to affect her game, and then it's obviously going to affect others around her. But I think one of Newcastle's biggest problems as well at the start of the season was they lost Lauren Psyche and Jada Gwynn alongside Tierra Hodges. And the Hodges to the Gladiators, by the way, someone said it to us on X at the start of the season, and I was like, haha, yeah, not going to happen. But where did that come from, do you think? Did you not think she would move to Europe, or did you have a feeling she would stay in the league?
It's so tough to know. Like, it's one of these ones for Tierra, you go, okay, what's the opportunities? Obviously, Gladiators have decided not to do Europe this season. That would have been part of the plan. Like, it's not as if Tierra's maybe sold a European dream of doing that in Gladiators. But there's also a comfort thing. Like, a lot of players want to be in a country where it's a similar culture, language is the same, and it just makes it easier for them to live and be. And I think that's maybe it. The style of basketball suits Tierra, let's be honest, as well. Like, how would a wing 4 kind of player who can play at the 5 in this country compete in other leagues? Maybe not as well. Like, it's that kind of thing as well, that unknown of that other league. But yeah, I think that was a massive loss for you guys and a huge gain for the Gladiators. Obviously, Tierra's she played a season before. She went to Newcastle in Finland. And you just go, I mean, does she have that ambition to go higher? You'd hope she would. And maybe next season the Gladiators will do Europe again. And if Tierra's there, it'll be. And I'm interested to see how I always look to see where players from this league end up. Like, it's something that I really enjoy doing during the summer, is watching where players go.
Yeah.
And you then go, okay, how does our league sit compared to others? Like, the men's league, it's maybe a little bit more easy to see, but the women's league is always a bit more tricky, because you're like, okay, how, like, where do they go? A lot of players maybe go to Germany, and you go, well, actually, is the British league better than that for some? And you go, I don't really. It's just, I find it all really interesting. So I think if Tierra's been able to show that she can do it on a different team, is great for her. That then actually, if a club or someone comes in for next season that give her a good situation, why would you not take it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because she's got so much talent. And actually, I think you've seen more at the Gladiators as well, confidence to maybe step back and take a 3-point shot, which will then stand her good stead in more of a European league as well.
Yeah, that's it. And do you know what it is, when these players do travel to different Europe, like Jada Gwynn going to Iceland, it sounds ridiculous, but I was like, Iceland, really? Is that, like you say, you want to take a measure of the league, you want to see what that is in comparison? And I genuinely, with the Iceland league, I couldn't tell you, but I know she's killing it over there. Like, she's a very
and
good
a lot
player.
of it is as well money.
Yeah.
Where do they get the money? And I suppose, like, Newcastle are one of those kind of middle of the road teams in SLBW that have probably batted above where they probably should the last few seasons, because they've recruited really well, bringing in people like Hodges, Dappa, Jada Gwynn, like you said as well. And you go, they've probably been above where they should have been in a lot of those respects. And Iceland seem to pay quite well. Same in the men's league. If you're at one of the top teams, they pay pretty well. And you go, well, these players need to make a career, need to earn money, and sometimes you maybe not drop down a league, but go to a league that's maybe not as well regarded to ensure you get a better pay packet. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's it. And I was gonna say, well, the weather will be crap over there, but like when you're living in Scotland and Newcastle, like, it's not really much better.
That's not much.
That's not.
There's
no.
It's only now where you get a bit of daylight. Like, it's been internal darkness since October.
Well, honestly, if I look outside now, it's like a monsoon. It has not stopped raining all morning. I mean, I'm glad I'm off work, but it's miserable.
Today's the sky is blue.
Oh.
It's a nice day up here today.
How does Scotland have better weather than Newcastle? This is a joke.
Hey, very easily. Bonny country sometimes, but no. But that's it. Like, you look at, when I speak to players, you're like, oh, when you come to Scotland, and there's a little bit of that misunderstanding of how big the UK is as well. You do, like, when people say when they hear the UK, they hear London.
Yeah.
Oh, everywhere's near London. And genuinely, that's true. A lot of Americans, I used to ask a question all the time, like, oh, what have you done your research in Scotland? And you can always tell which players have and they haven't. They go, oh yeah, it's near London.
I mean,
and then you can
in
tell,
the terms of the US, I guess it is.
Yeah. But then when you go in Scotland, you can tell the ones who've looked up, like, want to go see the castles, want to go see the Highlands, want to go, like, there's a lot of pros to coming up here from a benefit of terms of seeing sites like Loch Ness, the castle, that kind of stuff.
I mean, it is. I love Scotland, but we go to Edinburgh all the time. It's a beautiful country. Like you say, if they've done the research, it's not exactly, there's definitely worse places in Britain to go. So,
absolutely.
We'll finish on the cup final, if that's all right with you. We'll
go for it.
Obviously, Manchester have made it all the way against Hatters. Maybe the draw fell kindly to them. Obviously, the Gladiators taking on the Hatters in the semi-finals, in which the Hatters unfortunately won for you. What chance do you think Manchester have, and how do they win that game? Because obviously it's a cup final. We'll say anything can happen, but that anything could maybe be a 5-6% chance the way the Hatters are playing. But it's possible. How do they do it?
So I'm curious to see home court advantage. And okay, when I say home court, none of these girls will have played at the AO Arena or whatever. It's the AO Arena. I was going to say the MEN. Yeah. I was going to go an old-fashioned name on it. But none of these players will have played there. But a home Manchester crowd does give a bit of a boost to Manchester. It's interesting, this Manchester team isn't as strength and depth as last season. Let's be honest. Like, last season, Manchester spent crazy money on bringing in good level players, and it maybe feels like they've gone, wait a minute, we overspent last season to get the players in the court, and they probably underachieved last season. But then you look at it and you go, what have they got? And you go, like, I've not really seen, Gladiators don't play Manchester till like the end of April, so I've not seen the eye test on them. But Hottinger is obviously their main player. They've quite a big team,
yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that matchup goes. Like, they might I think they'll match up pretty well with Sheffield in terms of that kind of size and length. Okay, you think, okay, have they played Sheffield yet? Yes, they have, and they lost by 33 points. And if you look at that game, 94-61, and you go, how did they get on? And you're like, Hatters just become so difficult to play. And I'm sure that was a game Hatters were missing a couple of players as well.
I don't think I've even seen that game, to be honest with you, so I couldn't even pretend to comment on it.
No, I know. I'm actually just clicked on it because I think that was one of the games because Georgia Gale missed a couple of games and they still put 94 points on them. So I think it's very much one of these ones where Hatters are the favourite and the draw has helped them. Being able to play the Gladiators in the semi-final gave them a slightly easier chance in the final. You'd have to say off form, off league standing, off how the season's played so far. But in a one-off game, in a final in Manchester, like if you're a Manchester player, you're going to be up for this game.
Yeah.
It's regardless of anything as well, having the fact that both finals have a Manchester representative in it. Like that's a huge boost for the crowd. They'll get more bums on seats. There'll be more noise behind Manchester that could be the decisive factor because anything can happen in a final. We've seen it so many times. Like the upset could happen, but there's something about this Hatters team that just makes them so difficult to break down.
Yeah, they just know how to win, don't they? That's it. I think we keep coming back to that point. Like it's pretty hard. If this becomes a game where there's a 10-point or 12-point swing, do you worry for Manchester? Do you think that's kind of game over? Can you see them coming back from that kind of deficit, or do you think they'll always give themselves a chance?
They'll give themselves a chance, but we need to remember who is the Sheffield coach. Vanessa Ellis will not let her team step off the gas pedal. Like how they play is it's full 40 minutes, and Sheffield will want to send a message that this is their season, and you know what, they've played incredibly well. Like you try and think, what is there any weaknesses in that Hatters roster, and you go, no.
It's it's an easy question.
You defend them well at the art, and then someone like a Shauna Harrison will just hit this kind of ice, like snow falling off the ball 3-pointer that's just high arcing. If you need someone to just get you, even get fouls on the other team, Georgia Gale will drive to the basket. Like they've got so much kind of variety in their play, and they've got that grittiness installed in them from the coaching team that in one-off finals, that's not stepping off either. Like we saw what they did to Gladiators second half, they just kept going. They didn't wait. They didn't stop when they got that 5-point lead, 6-point lead, 10-point lead. They put their foot down and went further.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I've said this before, that the Hatters have been good to me when I've like corresponded with them. But I've got to say I'm rooting for Manchester. I think like you say, the home crowd, Hatters are probably going to win everything, so it'll be nice to see Manchester nick it. And I'm a big fan of Hottinger. See, she's had a big role to fill. Like if you lose Danny Williams, the MVP of the league, like it's a bit of pressure on your shoulders, isn't it? It's not easy to come in and prove yourself, and she's done exactly that. So, I mean, I'll definitely be looking forward to the final.
Yeah, and I think Manchester may be unlucky again. Like their record in the league, they've probably a couple of games out there. You go, we could have done more than that. Like they dropped a game to London early in the season by 3 points. They lost Oakland's by 2 a few weeks back, and actually that was I watched that game, and you're like, I think Oakland's had a 3-throw. I think the game was tied, and I think they got the offensive board. They missed the 3-throw to whatever, and then I think it was a tied game. Manchester were unable to box out, and then Oakland's rebounded it, offensive rebound, scored 1-2 almost on the buzzer, and you go, that's 2-3 games just then. You're like, that could have gone another way for us. That could have done, and then all of a sudden their season goes from being they've maybe disappointed to, you know what, they're probably where we think they are, and they're actually not that far behind the 8 ball. But the league is such a short league for the women. I'd love there to be at least another round of matches because I feel like they deserve it. That anything could happen, but I just think that Manchester don't have the same depth as Sheffield, and they need someone like Hottinger to have almost a career night to get this one over the line.
Yeah, I think I agree with every point you made there. And in regards to the season being longer, mate, I've said the same as well, especially when you see now, like, with teams down the bottom of the league, like Nottingham, and I know Cardiff and that are still struggling, but it seems like they're starting to play better as well, and they're kind of turning the screw themselves a bit more, where Nottingham, they may have been defeating like Leicester and Cardiff, but they're kind of finding a bit more momentum, so it's where you get to the point where I'm actually interested to see where they're going to go now and how far they can kick it on. But then the season just kind of cuts off, doesn't it? And you're like, you feel like you could have maybe got a bit more from them.
But it's like, look what's happening. You've got teams still, like Nottingham signed a player not that long ago. London have brought in players as the season goes on. That just kind of makes the quality at the bottom end better.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not surprised to see Leicester sitting down in ninth. Cardiff, you always thought, like, post-Christmas, they kind of bring in another import who's maybe at the university, and they maybe sneak a win or two. But again, if you look at their scores, they're getting closer in games. They seem to be almost start from zero every season. And if they had more games, then, you know what I mean? Like, there's potential more jeopardy. It's a similar situation across both pro leagues that we would all like to see more players, more teams as well, so you've got more variety. But you look at the league and you go Nottingham and London battling out for that kind of 7-8 spot. Will Manchester keep going up? What will happen to Newcastle, Essex, Oaklands? And then you go Sheffield. But I think we're talking about it as if like Sheffield have already rounded it up, but they genuinely just are kind of one game ahead type situ.
Yeah, that's
like when you look at it, you're like, actually.
But when you look,
if Sheffield, we just don't see Sheffield losing. But if they do, all of a sudden it's a really, really close call. And then but if they drop a game, you can throw Oaklands into the mix, and the top of the table gets really exciting because it's such a race.
And I think we're seeing it last year with Oaklands themselves. Obviously, they had quite a bit more of a budget last year, and they brought in the players, and they had Sam Ashby. They had Danny McCrea and players like that. And they went through the regular season. I think it was actually Newcastle that beat them first on the big one. I think they were unbeaten. They might have been 11-0 or something ridiculous like that when we beat them. But then obviously you see a record like that, and I think they lost another game or two. You see a record like that and you're like, well, they've won it. They've won everything. And then obviously they didn't win all the cups. They lost in the playoff final, so it is possible. So I think, obviously, we are seeing Sheffield, and we have glazed Sheffield quite a lot here. But I mean, it is pretty hard to when you know who's in charge of them, who's on the team, the record during the season, who they've beaten during the season. It is pretty tough.
And and even like if we go back and say about the Gladiators again, like you're almost talking them down because they've dropped a few games recently, but international period's coming. That's a bit of time off because the schedule has been a bit crazy for all teams. They regroup. All of a sudden, they might not drop another game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you generally just think like the last part of the season post international break could really be interesting. Like teams can beat anyone. Like nobody just walks on the court and they've already won the game. So we're saying like Sheffield, they just don't look like they're going to drop a game, but actually, they actually could. Like they could. It's just unlikely. We think it's unlikely.
Yeah, that's it. Well, because I can see if anyone that doesn't know, I've got a child monitor next to us and she is now stirring, so that's kind of my cue to finish up.
That's it. That's a great timing.
I do have one last question for her, so she can maybe just chill for a little bit. For you, who has your player of the season been so far?
I think it's got to be Megan Mullings.
Yeah, that's what I've got wrote down.
She's a type of player that excels in our league. She's got a kind of great all-rounded game, that kind of confidence to come in and makes a huge difference. She's an experienced player, like in her 30s, she's played around Europe, and it's amazing to see a talent like that come here.
Yeah.
And it shows you that the Hatters have that bit of budget, since obviously Yvonne Millett owns both Sheffield, or runs or owns, both Sheffield team, that we're seeing that kind of increase in talent at the top end as well. But she's tremendous. Like all rounder, she handles the ball pretty well. She's a player that I think if you're wanting to enjoy watching basketball, you watch her.
Yeah, 100%.
Like she's a great player to watch. She can score. Her rebounding's insane. Like you can tell she just wants to win. So yeah, I think it's between her and, with my Gladiators hat on, Tierra Hodges, and then you can never discount Georgia Gale as well.
Yeah, that's it. No, I'm with you. And Megan Mullins, she's such a big game player as well, isn't she? That's kind of what changes a player from being a good player to a great player. She's a leader on the court. She's a big game player. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. That's exactly what I had wrote down as well, so I'm glad we're in agreement.
I think she's just had a tremendous season, and obviously in any game against the Gladiators, she's turned up. Like you're saying about big game players, like that's a fact. She's turned up every time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you for that, mate. I've really enjoyed it. It's nice to talk about the women's game for once. I don't get to do it often.
No, it's good. It's something I don't get to talk about often either, so that was great. Thanks for having me on, Nathan.
Have you back any time. Do you want to plug your SLB show while we're here, where people can find
it? Yeah, so check us out on SLB Show across all kind of social media platforms. You can watch the show on YouTube and also Spotify, and we'll be talking about everything and anything to do with the men's game as the season heats up. So yeah, check us out and give us a follow as well.
Yeah, awesome. And if you want to see more shows like this, and we will be dropping a weekly episode of Women's Basketball Weekly, as it is called in the name. Like, share, subscribe, make sure we get plenty of views. We'll keep getting it on, and we've got a couple of, hopefully, player interviews lined up, so hopefully that adds a bit extra to the podcast. So thank you all for watching, and thank you very much, Grant.
Thank you for having me.